Welcome to 2017. I thought I'd start the year with something a bit flashy. Now, while the Power Play Chess team was taking its break over Christmas and New Year, the World Rapid Play and World Blitz Championships took place in Qatar. They were fantastic events and, well, I didn't have time to cover them with reports, but what I would like to do is show you a few highlights in a YouTube hangout that'll take place on Thursday, January the 12th. So next week, Thursday, January the 12th, do join me for that. And of course, you can ask questions as usual, and I'll put details in the video description. But I'd like to give you a little taste of the kind of chess that was played there. And I'm going to show you a game between one of our old favourites, Badur Jobava, playing against Maksat Atabayev. Well, Badur Jobava, very exciting player. He didn't have a brilliant time in Qatar in the Rapids. He only got 7 out of 15, but of course he was always plays interesting chess. Here he has the white pieces. He played Bishop G5 against the Najdorf, and his opponent played the currently very trendy variation Knight BD7. This is almost taken over as the main line at the moment. And here the most popular moves in the past have been F4 or Bishop C4. Both decent moves, but Queen E2 is very trendy at the moment. So White envisages rapid queenside castling and potentially F4 and E5. So Black has to really be on his mettle in this variation. H6, this is the most popular move and a very decent move. Putting the question to the bishop, if the bishop goes back, which is the most popular move, then Black has a choice. You can play G6 and Bishop G7, or you can play G5. And this is quite an old variation, actually, or quite an old way of playing the position. And what Black does, having played this typical Najdorf move G5, that takes a bit of control over F4 and means that this knight lives very happily on E5. And Black has this sort of rock-solid shell in front of his king. And well, it's a very double-edged position. You know, White tries to break through on the king side and in the middle. In the meantime, Black has chances against the king. It's a very interesting position. But instead of Bishop H4, Jobava just played in a very straightforward way. Remember, this is rapid play chess. You want good, clear plans. You don't want to be concerning yourself with too many complications. And this is a very straightforward way for White to play. And here, well, previously E5 has been played. And again, I think this is a very straightforward way for Black to play. And although White has control over D5 for the moment, Black does have this bishop which usually gets into the game. Instead, Black played Queen C7. And once again, F5 is playable here, but E6, okay, also decent. And we can see that Jobava has straightened himself out on the king side. And here I think castles is looks like a normal move. It means that if E5, the knight can retreat to D7. Bishop D7 was played. But that allows E5, and already I'm getting slightly bad feeling about Black's position here because that knight has to retreat to H7. Now, that just feels too passive to me. I wouldn't allow that if I were playing Black. Not a good square for the knight. You know, it takes time for this knight to reroute, possibly via F8 in the future, but you know, it's not great. I mean, maybe Black could try here castles and then bring the rook to D8 and then knight F8. But of course, you know, White has a pretty straightforward plan to open up lines here. And this bishop is annoying for Black, it has to be said. It's a very good piece. Anyway, the game continued. Rook C8 and then B5. So Black is playing in a very uncompromising way. Well, let's see what Badur does against this. Black should probably castle now. That would be the safest move. but instead black careered on with the b pawn. Now, in an ideal world, this would of course be a good move to put the question to the knight. If the knight comes to e4, then you've got to watch out. This could be a decent move. But Bahadur found knight d5. This is great. Now, of course, this is a very obvious sacrifice, the absolutely normal sacrifice in these kind of Sicilian positions where white wants to break open black's position, break through this shell in front of the king. And I can imagine that black had anticipated this and thought that after bishop takes pawn, castles, he should be okay. Of course, e6 is still complicated, but black should be okay here. He does, after all, have an extra piece. But in this position, after the knight was taken, Bahadur detonated rook takes pawn. This was obviously the move that black missed. And white is just crashing through here. This is spectacular. It's beautiful. It's brilliant. We love it. Well, what if the rook isn't taken? Well, if it's not taken, then you have moves like, well, for example, if the knight tries to come back into play, just bishop takes pawn, and this king is just not going to get out of this position alive. You've got moves like queen h5 coming, e6 coming. I mean, it's just disgusting. Black's position is completely cut in two. Queen c5 protects the bishop, but protects the pawn as well. But e6, I mean, this is a dreadful position. Dreadful position. Well, in the game, black took the rook. Why not? In for a penny, in for a pound. But then bishop takes pawn, check. If the king goes back to f8, then queen h5, threatening a mate. And don't forget this one, and don't forget that one. It's pretty bad. So the king went to e8. Queen h5 check. King came to d8 and knight e6. It's pretty simple. It's all very straightforward. The king is in the same line as the rook, and it's all happening with checks. And the only move is bishop d6, but then rook takes d6. If king e7, then that looks like checkmate to me. So queen takes rook forced, but of course this position is hopeless. Queen against two rooks, but the king exposed, the knight out of play. I mean, white is just winning this position. And the game finished like this. Rook f8, watch out for a bit of a check, but here it's forced checkmate, and here actually black resigned, because if king e8, queen a4 check. That is the power of the queen. I love the way it just switches sides, a little sidestep, and then whoosh, slides down to deliver mate. Beautiful game by Bahadur Jobava. We want to see more of that in 2017. Don't forget YouTube Hangout next Thursday, 7 p.m. UK time, and don't forget also that the Vaikanze tournament starts on Saturday the 14th of January, and I'll be giving daily reports after each round, so we're going to have a tremendous start to the year.